Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
It's been another eventful week, and here we are. It's only Tuesday, and already I'm ready for another weekend. We should have another weekend soon, don't you think? Those seem nice.
It would be nice. They're too few and far between compared to all of these weekdays we have where stuff happens. But Tom, that can all wait. I am looking at this beautiful wall behind you. For those of you listening to the show, you're missing out. Uh, Tom has a wall of certificates, diplomas behind him, and it's congratulations. I had no idea that you were this vain.
If you would like to see my very, very, very impressive wall of impressive achievements, you can go to youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop and find this episode on there. But yeah, no, it's when you sit in front of a wall full of framed diplomas and certificates, it lets people know that you're extremely smart and good at your job. So I figured, hey, sometimes people may need to be reminded that about me sometimes. So I figured this was a good way to let that happen.
So after you have that wall, do you feel like people see it now? They no longer need to hear from
Exactly right. I mean, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a wall full of diplomas is worth, I mean, like 9,000, at least 8,500, I'd say. And then, yeah, I mean, I can just you can ask me questions the rest of the podcast, and I'll not say anything, and I'll just let the wall do my talking for me. I think I don't see any possible way this wouldn't work out well.
you. Now, Tom, I can see some of those, and I can read some of those certificates of participation. I don't know that that needs to be up on a wall. I'm just saying, good job participating. I don't know that it needs to be framed, let alone even printed out by whatever factory you went to and sat through some sort of a course for. So, no offense, but participating isn't really achieving.
Well, in my defense, I was not expecting you to look that closely at the wall, so that's an important part of this conversation. But there's been a lot this week already. And again, once again, it's only lunchtime on Tuesday. And there's already been a lot this week where some people have not been willing to say whether they participated in activities that they allegedly participated in. So, I mean, certificates of participation on the wall behind me, whether it's a real wall or virtual, is not really important right now. But certificates of participation, that's a lot more than a lot of people are willing to step up and admit to this week. So I think that counts for a lot.
Now, Tom, there's also another one behind you that is a certificate of attendance, which means you didn't even need to participate in that one. You just needed to show up. So I'm wondering, maybe you also have a certificate of participation from that same one, or you chose not to participate in that particular class on uh, distributing the blame somewhere else. So congratulations on attending something and then getting a piece of paper handed to you for that attendance, and then putting that piece of paper in a glass framed, wooden framed little thing to make you feel better about showing up somewhere.
Well, they say that 90% of life is showing up, and they gave me 100% of a certificate for it. So that seemed like a pretty good deal. I mean, that's that, and of course, on the other side, you are glitching in and out like you accidentally interrupted your parents while traveling back in time. So, this is, if you're just listening to this podcast, you're missing out on at least 50% of the performative art of the entire thing. I think that's safe to say. So listen, give us a 5-star rating and review, then go find us on YouTube, and it's a whole different experience. It's like when they remaster Star Wars movies and everyone
Mhm.
goes and rewatches them again. Same thing, exactly the same.
And if you both watch and listen, we could print you out some pieces of paper that say that you attended both the podcast and both the video, and you can hang that up on your wall because your life is so small and meaningless that you need these things to tell you that you are important because nobody else will do it for you. So that's great. So good job. Tom, do you have any more about your wall, or can we finally just move on to a podcast?
No, we have a long outline of things we need to talk about, and at some point we should start talking about them so that eventually we can finish them. Because then you get a
Yes.
certificate. Then you get a certificate of completion, and that's really what I'm just here for today.
Hopefully that happens. So the breaking news today, just the most recent breaking news of the day. the commitment of four-star Kansas, let's call him a linebacker, Dasan McCullough, the number 7 athlete in the 24/7 composite, the number 70 player. 24/7 lists him at 6'5", 220. That can't be right. You take an inch off of guys who are 6'5", and listed as possibly a safety or linebacker. Rivals has him 6'4", 215. That's probably more accurate, but he's probably 6'3" and a half tops. That's just how these things go. But he had offers from Alabama and Clemson, so this is a good get. The number 4 outside linebacker in Rivals class, and a number 21 player overall, which now gives Tom the Buckeyes 3 of Rivals' top 4 outside linebackers, joining Gabe Powers, who is their number 3 outside linebacker, and CJ Hicks, who is their number 1 outside linebacker. And in theory, if everybody stays where they are and nobody plays high school football, nobody does any camps, and everybody just sticks where they are and there's no need to move anybody, the Buckeyes could have 3 5-star outside linebackers in this class, which might be a record.
It does seem pretty good. Yeah, that would be pretty good. Now there are certainly questions about whether all 3 of those guys are truly going to end up as outside linebackers. I mean, there was kind of open speculation that Gabe Powers might grow into a defensive end. It doesn't sound like it's as likely to happen with Dasan McCullough, but those if it's Dasan McCullough and CJ Hicks as outside linebackers and Gabe Powers as a defensive end, the Ohio State's going to have, whenever Ohio State's allowed to play football again, they're going to have some pretty good talent in that some of those defensive meeting rooms. Dasan McCullough is such an impressive kid because if you watch his highlights, he's quick. He's got incredible size. All 3 of their commits, I think, are bigger than any of their current linebackers. I mean, they're all big kids, but they all move. I mean, Dasan McCullough is really quick. He's also the son of Dylan McCullough, who is the Kansas City Chiefs running backs coach. So he has the whole son of a coach thing going. And our Alex Gleitman has talked to him a couple times. He talked to him maybe a month ago, and then had an interview with him on why he decided to commit. You can find that, just search Around the Oval on the YouTube channel of Buckeye Scoop or on Spreaker. It's on the front page of Buckeye Scoop. It's worth finding. Dasan McCullough is a super, super, super impressive kid. His dad, by the way, also is part of one of the most remarkable stories you've ever heard. If you have not found it, it's worth going back. I think ESPN did it a couple of years ago. But Dasan McCullough grew up in a single parent household with just his mom, and went to Miami University, was a running back there, ended up playing for the Bengals in the NFL for a season, and he ended up being Indiana's running backs coach. He was looking for he decided he was going to try and find who his dad was. And it turned out that his dad was someone who had been this really influential coach in his life. He'd actually known his dad for years, and his dad had been this influential person in his life. And neither of them had realized, the dad didn't realize he had fathered a son. The son didn't realize that this was his dad. So this remarkable story. So, and Dasan McCullough is very much involved in Dasan McCullough's life. I think probably as a result of that, and seeing the importance of being a good father figure and all that. And I mean, you listen to Dasan McCullough talk; he is such an impressive kid, and fits very much in with what Ohio State is looking for right now on the field and off the field. I mean, it is athletic. He could fit in a couple different places depending on how he grows and how where their needs are. But also just off the field, he's just a very, very high character, very impressive kid.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And all 3 of these guys are listed like 6'4", 220. They're all similar builds, but could do different things. You mentioned Gabe Powers possibly being a defensive end. They don't have like the super outstanding defensive end committed yet in 2022. And you always expect them to land one, as with the 2023 offer to Brennan Vernon, who Bill Green calls the 4th Bosa. And you've got Jack Sawyer in 2021 and Brennan Vernon for mentor in 2023. Obviously, Chase Young, Zach Harrison, that lineage. They're still looking for this 2022 defensive end. Maybe it is Gabe Powers, but that's one of those things where you bring them in and you see where they end up and see what they grow into. And certainly all of those guys, they're different they do different things. And CJ Hicks jumped up to the number 4 overall player in Rivals' recent rankings, which I think surprised a lot of people, but looked good at the one camp that everybody was at. And maybe he can start to look good in high school football as that starts this week around the country for some of the country. And hey, good for them to be able to play football. Who would have thought?
Dare to dream. Yeah. Well, I mean, high schools have the kind of resources that a conference like the Big Ten simply couldn't hope to match. So obviously they can play well at the Big Ten. It's simply not a viable option and not even worth discussing anymore. The end. Yeah. It's CJ Hicks is the kind of player who I was surprised to see him jump up to number 4 in the country, but also at the same time, not totally surprised. There are kids who are just going to absolutely knock your socks off just in shorts and a t-shirt and running and just the raw physical ability that they have. He's one of those guys. He's going to just be one of those people that just jumps out at you as as you're running the 3-cone shuttle drill or running through an obstacle course or whatever you're doing at these summer camps. He's one of those guys who's absolutely going to shine there, and without a ton of film to evaluate, since not a whole lot of people have been playing football for the last 9 months or so, and there have been very limited camps. If you really shine at one of those camps, like, yep, you're going to be, you're going to really jump off the screen or jump off, really stand out to people. And he's someone who Bill Guerini has talked about as, potentially like a major, major, major impact player at Ohio State. And it's just a matter of the on-field production catching up with the physical ability. And that, sometimes that just takes a little time, and hopefully he gets his football season to play this fall to, keep consolidating those gains and keep moving towards the player that I think Al Washington and Kerry Combs and everyone on the Ohio State staff thinks he probably can be.
It's an interesting class so far. 5 guys, all ranked within the top 168 of Rivals, including Tegra Shabola at 108, the offensive lineman, and Jair Brown, the cornerback transferred from Louisiana, is number 168 overall. So pretty good start for a 2022 recruiting class, Tom. I was told by some people that if the Big Ten doesn't play this year, it's going to destroy Ohio State for forever and ever, and they'll never be able to dig their way out of this. But no recruits are actually impacted by no football this year. Like, they would still get to play next year and in 2022 and in 2023. So yeah, it wouldn't be great if there's no football, but it appears that if there is no football, the future is still okay because there are still players committed and intending to sign. And also, as we saw Jack Sawyer do, some of the 2021 guys are going to be opting out in order to be ready sooner for their Ohio State careers to begin. So he did that this week. He opted out, or this weekend.
Time is meaningless.
Exactly. Between the last time we recorded and this time currently, he opted out, cited just the unknown of what's going on with Ohio high school football. And if you spend any time on Twitter, like today, I saw one high school coach saying, hey, we need a week 4. Anybody out there got a week 4? And I saw Massillon's head coach tweet out a graphic of their schedule with a question mark, our final schedule? And so that's, you understand why a guy like that, the number 1 player in the nation per some outlets, is going to opt out in Ohio. Other commits for the Buckeyes don't even have the option of opting out because their football seasons have already been canceled. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this happens and how many of these guys do it. I would love to be able to watch some of their games this season, actually watch some high school football games. Jack Sawyer won't be part of that. He won't be the last. Tom, I'm confused, though, because Brian Day was saying that he believes freshmen that enroll early could play in the winter and also in the fall and only use 1 year of eligibility. And I think we may have talked about that on the last show, but as you think about it more, I don't see how that's possible because it doesn't work for the rest of the guys. Like, when he talks about the seniors that would play in the winter, he then says their eligibility would be up. You wouldn't have to worry about them being part of the roster size in the fall. So if it would work for freshmen, why wouldn't it work for everybody?
Yeah, I don't know. And the answer there really is, so what is the SEC and ACC and Big 12 going to do? And if they all cancel this fall and everyone's playing in the spring, then maybe people can come together and get some kind of consensus there and work something out where early enrolling freshmen are sort of excluded from the rule that would apply to everyone else. So that, if you were supposed to be a senior this fall and you play next spring, okay, you're still, you still use that at year of eligibility. I mean, if they're looking at potentially trying to make it as inviting as possible for players to play in the spring, maybe you do say we're going to do it and no one's going to burn a year of eligibility, even the seniors. That Justin Hilliard couldn't come back and be a 7th-year senior next fall. I mean, that's a possibility. It's going to kind of depend, and if you're going to have more flexibility, the more leagues who are playing. If all 5 leagues are playing and all 5 leagues potentially could benefit from this, then you certainly can. I mean, you certainly can maybe work something out. There's just so much of this that's going to be unprecedented, and nothing is necessarily. I think everyone's going to understand that this may be kind of a one-off thing where, hey, hopefully we don't have a once in a century pandemic more than once in a century. So hopefully this is not something that comes up again in 5 years. But you might be able to get away with kind of bending the existing understanding of things more if everyone's playing, everyone's in the same boat, but we still have to wait and see on those other conferences. And I think you're going to know about those other conferences sooner than you think. I don't think that's going to go up till September 24th, and then they're going to cancel for September 26th. I talked to someone who knows folks who are kind of at the high level of network TV, and he said, watch like by Labor Day or so, because what's going to happen is all of those, if the SEC really is going to be rolling out their games September 26th, all those TV networks need to start pre-producing all the stuff for their TV broadcasts. That takes a little while. That's not just roll in on a Thursday afternoon and shoot all your stuff and go. So those networks are going to need to start knowing stuff, and have to have a whole satellite truck and equipment and all the stuff that goes into producing a broadcast, which is a lot more than you probably think if you have not worked in TV. There's a lot that goes into that, and they need to know a little bit in advance rather than finding out, Friday afternoon at 3:00. Oh, turns out we can't play tomorrow and the season's canceled. So you may get answers on some of that sooner than you're expecting.
Yeah, and we're all just waiting for answers. Who knows when we will get them? I know there's some meetings this week for like the rules committee on possible. Let's talk about what happens if teams don't play this year. What kind of eligibility rules are we talking? Who maintains what? I think it would be just an easy rule to say, yeah, freshmen can play in both seasons. I don't know that they would. For one thing, like, when do they arrive? Generally, they arrive like 1st of January that week, like right after the All-Star games, the All-American games. And now that would also be like the first week of the season. So you're not going to just walk in and start playing if you're a true freshman. At most, you'd get 3 or 4 weeks in before you'd get a sniff. And really, how would they work you in when they are spending their week preparing for games? So I don't know how the freshmen would actually get worked into the thing, unless I go back to Brendan White. When he was a true freshman, he was actually practicing while he was still in high school. If you remember the photos of him, I think a linebacker perhaps at that point. So there is all of these guys who are in school virtually could very well, I guess, do that same practice, like take part in winter camp for Ohio State as high school seniors, and then graduate like the day before they start playing or something like that, where maybe they are practicing while they're still in high school. Would seem like an awful lot to ask. And then, here you go. maybe play into in up to 10 games this winter, maybe play up to 15 games this fall. That's it's interesting to see like Jack Sawyer saying, "I trust Ryan Day, I trust Larry Johnson in terms of the workload. I trust that they're not going to put me through anything that I can't handle." And I'm still waiting, want to talk to Mickey Marotti about what he thinks is safe and possible. Because one thing we know is something that Ryan or something that Urban Meyer said long ago, like you have to be on the same page with your strength coach. Like you two have to be the same. Like you have to be in concert every step of the way. And we know Ryan Day believes that some sort of winter football can be played. Him and Mickey Marotti need to be on that same page. And you assume that since Ryan Day is saying this, that that's also what Mickey Marotti would say, but I would still like to hear it from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been enough indication that Ohio State is trying to be as on top of this as they possibly can that I would assume that Ryan Day is not just like floating stuff out there just on a whim. That he's probably, as much as the Big Ten hasn't been communicating about any of this stuff. Gerd just made a face. You can't see it, but Gerd just made a face. Yeah, much as the Big Ten hasn't been communicating on any of this stuff, Ohio State has seemed like they've been very much on top of it. And there's a whole conversation about how much of this is, perhaps performative and trying to keep put the best shine on things and to make sure everyone knows that Ohio State really wanted to play, so that when SEC teams are saying, well, how can you go to the Big Ten? They don't even want to play football. Ohio State can go, well, we do. Sorry, we're not Rutgers. Sorry, Alabama. If you need to say that about Rutgers to beat Rutgers for a player, you can say that. But Ohio State has been going out of their way at a lot of different levels of the program, from parents to players to coaches, to make sure everyone knows they are doing everything they can to play, and if they can't play this fall, that they can do everything they can to play next spring. So yeah, I mean it's as as you have in the rundown, it's a nice recruiting lure to say you're going to bring these guys in, but there's just so much unknown right now. I mean, asking anyone to project anything about 5 months from now is just like, sure, yeah. I mean, everything could be fine. We could all be living in shipping containers buried in our yards and fighting off the zombies at that point. Like, sure, whatever. I don't even know which of those seems more plausible.
I like the idea of Nick Saban trying to talk somebody out of going to Rutgers. Like, I though maybe like back when he was recruiting Rashawn Gary or Jabril Peppers, he was maybe like, "Are you sure you want to go to Rutgers?" And they're both like, "No, we're going to Michigan." Yeah, talk us out about going to Michigan if you want. But we hear that it's a lot easier at Michigan than it would be at Alabama, so we're probably going to go the Michigan route. That way, it's just a lot easier. And so that's what they did. And they did they ever maybe one
lived
day
happily ever after.
Yes, shared a East Division crown. I can't remember, but
that was 2016. So yeah, Rashawn Gary would have been on that one. But
and
they both did. Yeah, so there you go.
Congratulations! It was
Hail,
a good decision.
Champions of the East.
Both first-round draft picks, well earned. Probably would have been third, fourth-round draft picks tops if they had gone to Alabama. I'm just
famously terrible at developing football players. Yes, yes, Alabama. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Roll Tide.
So let's roll Tide. Let's move now to the kind of the topic of the day of the week right now, and that's the Big Ten's lack of transparency, lack of understanding, lack of anything right now. Starting with Penn State Athletic Director Sandy Barber coming out on Monday and saying, yeah, I don't even know if there was a vote. I don't recall anybody saying a vote. I don't think there was a vote, talking about the presidents voting to cancel the football season and their meeting with Kevin Warren, Big Ten commissioner. I guess the only thing I can see is that if there wasn't a vote, then there was a consensus that, you don't need to vote if you think most people are okay with canceling the season. But it sure would be nice to know who was for it and who was against it. That way, you know that if Maryland and Rutgers cost you the opportunity to play football this season, the next time you see them, you will murder them.
Um, I, I'm sure people think you're exaggerating, so I'm going to read the direct quote from Sandy Barber. Ready? Open quote. It is unclear to me whether or not there was a vote. No one's ever told me there was. I just don't know whether there actually was a vote by the chancellors and presidents. Period. Close quote.
How what
Those words in that order, came out of the mouth of a sitting Big Ten athletic director.
I don't understand how they don't know if there was a vote. Like how do athletic directors not know this? How are they not getting an answer? How are they not fighting for an answer? How are they just sitting back and
Heard my wife's family is from the Toledo area. Her late grandmother lived about 20 miles or so east of Toledo, way out in the country, and was just full of good old Northwest Ohio country folksy sayings. One of her great sayings that I still love to use periodically is, "Let me clue you, Gerd. Let me clue you. When people at a high level like that, who obviously would have access to that type of information, either firsthand or simply by asking the president, who is their superior on campus, hey, did you guys vote on this thing that is going to directly impact me and my department, potentially to the degree of $100 million or more?" If that person says, "Oh, I don't know," that means either one, they're lying, or two, they don't want to know because the answer involves all sorts of complications like, hey, okay, so what was the result of that vote? Now, I think that it's entirely plausible there was no official hands up or turn in your paper ballots or whatever vote, but I have a feeling the people in that room, if they wanted to, could tell you, here are the schools that were against it, here are the schools that were for it. And I don't think people want to answer that question out in public. I don't think people want their names attached to it, which, if you're a university president and earning your six-figure check, I mean, listen, you're not being paid to make big decisions and have any sort of accountability. That's not what this is about, being a president of a public institution like 13 of the 14 Big Ten schools are. So look, I think that's entirely unreasonable for people to expect that. And I think we should just move on and not ask any more questions and just allow our betters to make that decision and, cast, have Kevin Warren bring down the tablets from the mountain and just let us know what the ruling was.
You're absolutely right. They are where they are for a reason. We are where we are for a reason. And, if they would just allow us our buckets of worms so that we can feast every now and again, that would be great. But they're not even giving us worms right now, Tom. They're not even letting us have our worms. They're just, no worms for anybody. You have angered the gods. No worms for you. So now you've got Justin Fields' petition, which is probably around 270,000 signatures as we speak right now, to have the season basically reinstated, or at least to have the cancellation removed, and then understanding that it may still be canceled. But we've got time. Maybe we put that time to good use and just see what happens. And that leads to Sean Wade's dad, Randy Wade, Monday night tweeting that he is going to Chicago, and he'll be in Chicago, and he's planning to be at the Big Ten offices Friday morning to speak with Kevin Warren. Now, Kevin Warren may not be there.
Kevin Warren is still hiding under the covers. Yes, go on.
But if he wanted to be, he very well could be, because I'm sure he has access to like NetJets, whatever, or just drive down from Minneapolis where he lives and just grace the people with his presence. But it is, and maybe by the time we even release this, Kevin Warren will have come out and settled things down. But that would mean talking to people that aren't just the Big Ten Network, even though he would probably release a statement via the Big Ten Network, because why not? It's just it's a sad state of affairs, and it's an indicator of how far things have gone. when you've got parents of players, they've signed letters, and as Randy Wade told me Monday night, like that's all fine and good, but you can delete a letter, you can delete an email, you can not look at Twitter, but if somebody shows up to your doorstep, that makes people uncomfortable. And in order to be heard or make change or get any type of access, you have to make people uncomfortable. So that is his goal, to basically have as many Big Ten parents show up either at the Big Ten offices, he's not even sure if they're allowed there, or just somewhere else to have some sort of a peaceful protest of, we just want answers. We want to hear you explain why you thought football couldn't happen. We would also like to be heard. And we'll see if it works, or if Kevin Warren treats it like a petition or like an email and just stays home and deletes this from his mind by turning around and looking at his beautiful wall.
I mean, I said this on Twitter already, but I mean, the Big Ten is very clearly preparing for these meetings already. They are drawing the curtains and shutting off the lights and going to pretend they're not home. So I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, we're now at a week. Tuesday afternoon last week was when this got announced that they were shutting the season down. We're at a week, and we still have nothing more from Kevin Warren on any of this beyond the stuff they had the first day. There's been no further answers on anything. There's been no responses to anything. Like, I don't want to tell anyone how to do their jobs, but just ignoring the problem is probably not going to make this all go away. People are pretty ticked off right now, and you might want to consider addressing some of those people and not letting this spiral any further, because they have very clearly lost control of the narrative around all of this. And just look at how the Pac-12 is handling it. The Pac-12 canceled the same time as the Big 12. They've made university presidents, the chief medical officer available, and guess what? You don't have Pac-12 parents up in arms going with torches and pitchforks to the Pac-12 offices. I'm sure Pac-12 parents are disappointed too. The Big Ten has just chosen to not communicate anything about anything, and that is not a winning strategy, because then everyone else, when something, your hope there is, well, maybe this will just go away. And when it doesn't go away, then all people are hearing is all the other people saying, hey, these people are morons. They have no plan at all. And your response is radio silence. Guess what people decide? They decide you're a moron and you have no plan at all. And here's the thing. If they did have a plan, and if they did have an actual answer, I can't fathom why they wouldn't have brought it up by now. Like we got to last week and it was like, oh, well, we haven't really talked about a spring season yet. Like, what? What have you been doing for the last 4 months? I mean, they supposedly spent 140 Zoom meetings or something putting together that schedule with all this flexibility and all that. And then 6 days later, in the trash, sorry, no more. We just, it's completely not viable after 140 Zoom meetings and us releasing it. Like, suddenly it's not viable. Why? I don't know. I gotta go. I hear my mom calling me home for dinner. Like, what? What are you doing? So
turn out the lights.
Yeah. Turn out the lights, draw the curtains. Yeah, I mean, it's like they don't want, it's like they've got trick-or-treaters at their door and, oh, crap, we're out of candy. Well, sorry.
Get the bucket of worms.
Sorry, people are going to keep bringing that, bring out the fish heads. Yeah, people are going to keep ringing that doorbell, so you're going to have to answer it at some point and address the fact that you have no more candy.
Yeah, exactly. The Pac-12 parents, though, I mean, most of them are in prison for purchasing scholarships for their children. So we can understand if they're not super active. But also, the Pac-12 laid it all out. Had, I think, booklets on information, like PDFs of this is why, and these are the results, and this is the information that we have, and these are the doctors we cited. And if that's all that the parents of the Big Ten athletes get, I think that's okay. They just want to know why. They want to let the Big Ten know, like, yes, we want our children to play, or at least let's see if it can happen. And if it can't happen, fine. But there is no reason to cancel it now. And now, Tom, as we move to football going on everywhere, high school football, other college padded practices have begun. NFL camp has started. Every time I see practice highlights on Twitter, I retweet them just to, I guess, dig that knife into this decision even more to cancel football. So now North Carolina made it 1 week. And as we've been saying for weeks on end, once the tuition checks clear, then they can start kicking kids off campus. And that's pretty much what happened with Nebraska. They had some, or North Carolina, they had some outbreaks of COVID. And 1 week into the semester, they had to go entirely online. And I saw the decision came down like 90 minutes before students could like opt out of not having to pay the full tuition. But of course, most everybody had already paid by then anyway. So we saw that coming. But really, that's if this happens, if this is allowed to go on, and which I it should, it's not safe for students to be on campus, but it is safe for football. And we kept saying like, there's no need to put these two together because the students is what is going to make football unsafe. This is always the model that needed to happen. Get rid of these lousy students. They don't need to be on campus. I mean, let's be serious. You keep the athletes on campus as an Olympic village. Everybody is separated. These guys, athletes and regular students, have been separated forever anyway. Like, remember Steve Spurrier had like a hotel for his South Carolina players? Like, they were able to stay at a hotel with like reduced rates, and eventually they all got in trouble for that. But they've been trying to keep these parties separate for a while now. And if this is allowed and becomes the norm, then this makes college football even more viable much more viable than it is if there are still students on campus. Because then if you've got students on campus, you've got them off campus having COVID parties. And if they don't need to come on campus, then that makes everything a lot safer for the football players.
Right. And this is something that I think we've both been saying for quite a while now, which is, football players are going to be more motivated than anyone else to not do dumb stuff like go to house parties. Notre Dame had 2 house parties the weekend before or last weekend or whatever, when students got back on campus. And from 2 house parties in just the last couple days, they've gone from 50 cases on campus to 150 cases on campus. Now, if you had 150 cases in a football program or two, that would be immediately, we have to shut down the entire football program and never play again this fall. And somehow COVID, the serious potential side effects of COVID that are have been cited as the reason behind this, those only hit varsity athletes for some reason and not actual students. I don't know why. I'm not a medical doctor, but apparently that's the only conclusion I can draw here. But yeah, as we've been saying, like, if you have students separated from athletes, which you functionally already do, there is literally an entire separate athletic campus for Ohio State where football players and basketball players and soccer players and people on the track team and people on the tennis team, they're all there. They're not on campus with the regular students for the majority of their day. You literally have constructed the bubble. You've done the hard work. All you have to do is be willing to stop pretending that these are normal students just like everyone else who just so happen to play a sport during their free time. Like, you just have to stop living the lie, and you could do this fall. But they're not willing to stop living the lie. So, and that's not just an Ohio State thing. That's an everywhere thing. Guess what? Michigan has a separate athletic campus. They have Schembechler Hall. Players can spend all day in Schembechler Hall. It's set up exactly like Ohio State does. All the big programs have this. This is not one of these like a bug, not a feature thing. Like, this is intentional. They want you there. They want you focused. They want you not out messing around and doing dumb stuff. It was not a coincidence that Oklahoma had no problems at all with COVID, and then had players go home for a weekend or something, had a break, and then came back, and all of a sudden 9 people are positive. Like, you are literally in a bubble. They don't want to call it a bubble, but you are literally in basically a bubble. And there's a way to do it, but they're not willing to, by and large, programs, at least broadly enough in the Big Ten, programs are not willing to do, admit the things that they need to admit in order to just do this successfully. Because it is possible to do it successfully. It is not basically going to be possible to have broad student bodies on campus and, hold it to anything remotely close to what the standard you're holding football to, and actually have the semester come off successfully. And I can't imagine that the people in charge aren't aware of that. Like, they're not dumb. I mean, maybe manipulative, maybe short-sighted and desperately trying to make sure they have the money to keep everything running and all of that, but they're not dumb. They certainly have to know this. This has been screamingly obvious even to an idiot like me for months, that this is obviously what's going to happen as soon as you get college students back on campus. It's like, oh, well, they'll social distance in class. It's, oh, okay, it's fine. That's all they do. They go to class and study and sleep alone. That's all they do. All college students ever do. So yeah, as long as everyone follows these protocols, these extremely reasonable protocols, everything will be fine. What could possibly go wrong?
That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong. You were a journalism guy at Ohio State. Did you ever have classes on the ag campus?
I don't think I ever had one out on the ag campus. I know, like for people who don't know, that's like on the west side of the river on Woody Hayes. I had a roommate who was a big 4-H guy, so he was out there all the time. So I know exactly where that is, but I don't think I ever had a campus class.
But it's like that was separate.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have classes on the medical campus?
I think I probably had some kind of a freshman year something or other somewhere down there. Yeah.
I think I had one or two there. One was a summer Spanish class because there's nowhere else, I guess, to put it. But it's like you have separate campuses for all different, disciplines and studies. And so oh, dear God, they've separated the doctors from regular students. But yes, by putting them in the hospitals, should they be working at the union? It's a good thing we got the doctors here at the Taco Bell at the union, firing off my chicken soft tacos on my Buckeye ID for me. Meanwhile, I wonder who's at the hospital. Oh, it's the people who are leaving the sponges inside Woody Hayes' body during his surgery. Maybe let's just keep the doctors at the hospitals and let the people the regular students handle the Mark Pie Express and the Taco Bell and stuff like that in the union. Okay, maybe we do that, Tom. Is that okay? Is that too much to ask?
I have a feeling if there were doctors at Taco Bell, you'd have a lot of people walking up to Taco Bell and getting a short lecture on what your order is going to do to you, and then turning around and walking out. So that might not be great for Taco Bell's business model, but yeah, I'm with you. I think you keep the doctors in the hospital. I think that's probably the best place for them.
A turkey in every pot, a doctor in every hospital, a worm in every bucket, basically, and then you're happy. So I think, Tom, I think that'll do it for today. I think we're all spent. We don't know what's coming around the corner.
We're sure it's dumb. Whatever it is, we're sure it's going to be dumb. We don't know what's going to be, but it's going to be dumb. Can't wait.
It'll be dumb. Can't wait. Yeah. So, you got anything else before we call it a day?
No, I think we're good. And the fun thing right now is we'll record again on Thursday, as we always do, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have literally no idea what's going to happen between now and then. We could be talking about the Big Ten could have released a plan. The Big Ten could still be hiding in its bunker. I mean, parents could be there could be 500 football parents headed to Chicago. I mean, this could be literally anything, and I cannot wait. It's gonna be great.
I think you said before the show, the parents, all of these letters have asked for responses by August 19th, which is tomorrow. So we'll see. I'm totally sure they will get a response, provided somebody alerts Kevin Warren that he has had some emails, and maybe he checks his inbox to see. I'm going to assume he has not looked at Twitter in about several weeks, because it would not be healthy.
I keep having people in my mentions tagging him, so
yes. Trust me. He doesn't want to know what's going on in there. It's nothing good. It's not. for maybe that's why he has the wall that he does, because he took one look at his mentions and he's like, I'm a smart person. I'm going to prove it by having everything put on a wall. And
Yeah.
so that's why I guess your mentions were pretty rough this week then too, Tom.
Yeah, well, it was fine. I mean, he stayed out of my mentions. That was good. He stayed out of everyone's mentions, so that was fine. But yeah, I'm wondering, if you get enough parent groups, can you just replace everything on the wall behind him with framed letters from parents associations? That would be really, I mean, that would be pretty. I mean, you're inspiring action. That's good. That's a good sign of leadership. Let's not ask any follow-up questions. That's fine. And that's actually been a very good rule of thumb with him for a good solid week now. Let's not ask any follow-up questions. But yeah, no, I mean, inspiring action. That's what leaders do.
Yep. And but I'm guessing some of these things behind him now will be like no participation, no attendance.
Is that a parking ticket?
This here is just a drawing of a dinosaur riding a motorcycle. What does this even have to do? Yeah, but I did it. I'm the one who drew it. And so, yeah, just pulling random stuff off of his fridge to put behind him. But we're not trying to disparage him at all. I think he's done just fine on his own. He's done enough by himself. We're just mainly poking at him. So I guess let's go ahead and wrap it up, Tom. Want to thank you all for listening. How's the morning show going?
Morning show's going great. We have had no shortage of things to talk about this week. Had Mark Givler on this morning to talk about the forthcoming and now current commitment of Dasan McCullough, what's the latest with Ohio high school football, the latest with the three other big Power 5 conferences that are still looking at playing, the latest with the Ohio State parents movement, and how Ohio State has been responding to all of this. So there was a lot to talk about. That was 12 minutes, and we covered all of that different stuff. It has been fun to do these, because there has not. I was real concerned about a week ago, like, are we going to have enough to talk about on the morning show? There has been no shortage of news to talk about. So, and I'm guessing that will probably continue for at least the next few weeks as people sort stuff out. So,
what should people expect tomorrow?
Tomorrow, well, boy, that would require some planning. My guess is going to have. I could guess. Ready? I'm going to make a guess. I'm going to have Alex Gleitman on to talk about the commitment of Dasan McCullough, and perhaps some other news of the day. And if it's not him, I'll probably have Bill Green on. So we have. Here's the nice thing about Buckeye Scoop. We've got a whole bunch of really, really, really insightful recruiting analysts who I can ask them questions and they give me answers that I go, oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So that's been fun. I had Mark on this morning, like I mentioned. So yeah, we'll have probably Alex or Bill on today, and then I'm gonna guess you and I are gonna get to talk about some stuff at some point later this week, because I think there might be some news coming out of Chicago later this week too. So we'll get to chat about that as well. So can't wait.
Live from Chicago Monday morning. I'll be there.
Man.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, this is gonna be. All last week we were talking about how this is going to be a week that people are talking about for quite a while in the Big Ten. We're having another one right now, and next week maybe we'll see.
I was texting somebody else on the beat, and I was like talking about the Chicago thing, and I'm like, I love standing out in front of buildings. That's pretty much what our beat has been this summer, standing out in front of the Woody Hayes. Other people have like camped out for Gene Smith after meetings, and now I'll go stand out in front of this building. But, we didn't get to do it for the camp check-in. So, I guess traveling to Chicago to stand in front of another building is, I guess we'll do that instead. But wherever there is something of a story, we're going to try to be there to bring it to you all. Video, words, maybe even some music. We'll set some tunes for you, set the mood.
Video, words, mouth words, aka podcasts, maybe some music, maybe some interpretive dance. There's only one way to find out. Become a member of BuckeyeScoop.com. We do a lot of mouth words here. Yeah, and the interpretive dance would definitely be behind a paywall. 100%. We're not giving that away for free. No. All right. Thank you all for listening. Take it easy. We will talk to you guys later.